Hi, I'm Ben,
And I'm Tristan.
and this is
RWBY
RWBY Ramblings.
Where we're going to talk about the finale of Volume 5.
Woo!
No, it was actually exciting to have this volume end, although I feel...
Tristan couldn't wait for it to be over. It's like, thank
no.
God.
No, I enjoyed the volume a lot.
Yes.
The only thing is I was kind of hoping for more questions to be answered, but then again, this is the middle volume. Volume 6 is probably going to be insane, but that's a discussion for later.
Yeah, overall, just general thoughts. This volume was pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm honestly not sure whether I think I like Volume 3 a little more, but
Okay.
it's definitely up there with Volume 3 from my top volume overall.
Sure.
And I think this last episode, like you said, I was hoping for a little more out of it. And it's not like nothing happened, obviously. But in terms of, lore information and things like that, I think I was expecting a little more.
Yeah.
But overall, it was great. All right.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna want to talk about that a little bit more near the end of the
Of course.
episode, but primarily, I think the main reason that things were left as open-ended as they were was because next volume is really going to be the one where a lot of things, if they're going to get explained, that's probably where it's going to be.
Hopefully.
Considering they seem to kind of go, oh, hey, look, the beginning and then the middle and the end of these 3-volume series things. So, moving on. First thing, I enjoyed this. Blip. Blip. As I mentioned last time, I like the sounds that those police, I guess, blimps make.
Yeah.
Blimps, blimp. Yeah, okay, too good.
Yep, so the blimps show up and they're spotlighted on the White Fang members.
Yes.
And then when the Adam-controlled White Fang members see their compatriots from Menagerie surround them, most of them
give
lay
up.
down their weapons.
The one guy who
There's always that one guy.
Yeah, the one guy who has to get taken down by Ilya.
And Ilya gets some more, protagonist perspective as she gets to take him down. And the people are like, oh, my hero.
Well,
I'm paraphrasing.
Okay.
They just say thanks, but that's what they meant.
I kind of thought it was more of, oh, thanks for having it. I don't have to fight my brother. Or just thanks for all the things that you did, like disarming the bombs and...
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Anyway. Then we have the lovely, lovely discussion between Adam, Blake, and eventually Sun.
The first of a couple of great discussions in this episode.
This is true. I like this discussion simply because Adam's like, oh, hey, me. And Blake says, I don't care about you. I care about the people of Haven, Menagerie, and frankly, I have much bigger problems to deal with than you, sir.
Yeah, so Adam keeps trying to make it about, his personal story about revenge and, I'm going to make you regret this.
Yeah.
And Blake just keeps bringing up in retaliation, Adam, frankly, I don't really care about you.
Yep.
And I think that this is great on Blake's part.
Yes.
And I think it's really it's really hurtful to Adam.
I agree. If you, for a moment after it zoomed in on Blake's mouth and she said, not you, his mouth just kind of went down for a little bit and then he went to anger. But essentially, as we mentioned last time, Blake seems to be a pretty important person to Adam. And
I might have picked up on that, yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. So to hear, oh, I don't care about you at all is, well, maybe not at all, but you're not nearly you're not on the list of important things. That's probably
Adam's sinking even further into the heartbroken role of angsty teen.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, so he reiterates that, and then at some point in the conversation, Sun rolls up.
After between the exchange of I've made powerful friends while you were gone, and then it turns into where, which great way to come in, Sun. It's just where are they? You say you have these friends. Could you introduce us so we could beat them up? But and then also Adam's curt response is, "Tell me." does Blake make all of her friends fight for her? Or not friends, but schoolmates or classmates? And Sun says, nah, it's a volunteer gig.
Yeah, so just in case you missed the entire Blake arc that's been happening over the last 2 volumes, Adam does like a nice summary here for you.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, that was one of the whole points of Sun's revelations with that. One of the revelations that Sun gives Blake. Mm-hmm. And it's touching, of course, because in the background of this, you can hear the like morning follows night, which is like their co-theme playing in the background. That's cute. But yeah, it just brings up the point that, you know, it's not Blake always blames herself for her friends being hurt, but her friends put themselves in harm's way for her because they care about her, not because they feel obligated to.
Yes, correct. And that's a good point to bring up, simply because it has really helped Blake develop as a character and as a person that helps her friends. And it kind of shows the paths that these people that used to be on the same side, which is Blake and Adam, have taken. Adam's gone down this revenge path, while Blake's gone in this path of being much more accepting and protective and forming a group, while Adam's pretty much all by himself. And it's a pretty good parallel of what's going on.
Yeah, right. And just to say one more time, like, I think the whole thing is that Adam's trying to make it so that Blake is thinking about herself, but the evolution that Blake's gone through is that she used to think only about herself, sort of selfishly. It like to her it seemed like she was protecting others, but she really was only thinking about herself when she left her friends in order to protect them. But like she's evolved from that and grown into like sort of genuinely understanding and caring for other people in a more approachable, I guess, way.
Very much so. And
yeah.
Moving on a little bit to just the fight, which Sun's use of nunchuck guns is pretty cool.
Good to see those make a brief appearance again.
Yep. It's enjoyable to watch. And interestingly, when Adam is running away, Sun's like, no, we can take him, and Blake says, no. No, we can't. He's intentionally running off so he can try to kill us off one by one. Instead, let's just help the people here, because that's much more important.
Good work, Blake.
Very much so.
Also, now he can see what it feels like to run away.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment. I also then like how Blake thanks Sun, and then Sun's like, it's fine. We all need help sometimes. And then I really like the exchange when Blake says, be careful. Sun says, no promises. And then goes away, and then Blake just kind of looks down, smiling to herself, and then runs off to help her friends.
That was cute.
It was very cute. They are cute. I still don't think it's going to work out between them, but I want it to much more.
I do. I still think it's cute.
Yep. Let's see. People are quite tired fighting the seemingly endless Hazel. His aura fuels back at a rate I've never seen before. He's sheer willpower. We just have to get to his limit. What is his limit? I mean, come on. They're just kind of talking about it. I'm just thinking, wait, what is it? I mean, if he can just shove dust into him.
Yeah, I just, like, right now in this fight, like, Hazel is just carrying his team.
Yeah.
He's like, he is his whole team. I mean, you know, not to downplay Mercury and Emerald, but like.
Hazel's the prime figure of. He's the mini boss here.
Mini boss? Let's not be insulting.
I mean, considering the thing that shows up, and there
that's
were
true.
Quotes there later. Like,
okay.
If you, in comparison, he is a mini boss.
Fair point. But yeah, so obviously Hazel's a boss. This is old news.
Yes.
And they are predictably having trouble beating him, even though Hazel's taken quite a few hard hits already.
Yeah, and considering it seems as if injecting dust into yourself causes harm to the person who injected into himself, I imagine that he also is dealing with that. But considering he feels no physical pain, he's probably doing okay in that regard.
Interesting side note I just thought of. Nora says that he's regenerating aura faster than anyone I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
We learned explicitly last episode that aura is what heals people.
Yeah.
Could be a valid explanation for why he wasn't bleeding.
Yeah.
when he got skewered by
Yes.
the Lancer, Queen Lancer.
It kind of makes you think if it's not that maybe he doesn't feel pain. It might be that he's kind of like Wolverine, where he can just regenerate fast enough. Or something I was thinking of, maybe something Watts or Salem gave him to make him be able to
maybe
work with his, oh, you're not going to feel pain, so just keep recharging. I mean, I kind of wonder if he might have just some sort of weird core kind of thing, like embedded inside of his chest that fuels him. But
you know what that's called?
Really odd.
Sheer willpower. I believe that.
You do? You believe that? You believe that his sheer willpower is causing his aura to just regenerate itself?
Yeah. Have you seen him?
Yeah, he's insane.
Insane in like a passionate way.
Yes, this is true.
Passionate for whatever. Yes.
I mean, I find that a little bit difficult to believe because I would feel that like many more characters would also be able to do that then.
You're right, but I feel like we really...
I mean, we don't know enough.
It's
about
more
aura.
it has more to do with like individual variations with aura, which is something we don't know enough about. / semblance / whatever.
Correct. So it's either his semblance is something along those lines, where he has a whole bunch of aura, or he might just have a ton of aura, like John.
Individual variation. Who
Especially
knows?
since it seems like John is I'm going to try to melee fight you, and Hazel's very much so, I'm going to try to melee fight you, and the only reason I have ranged attacks is because I shove crystals into my arms and give me them.
Right. Anyway.
Yes. Speaking of those things, a fire electric ball, destroying Weiss's Lancer instantly, and Weiss's facial expression
that's what made me think Hazel carries his team. That's why I noted that.
Yeah. And then suddenly, it's a Blake.
Yeah, suddenly Blake arrives.
Double kicks right in face. And I really like how Blake goes, "Are you hurt?" And Weiss says, "No," and you can still see the blood.
She just has the...
You can still see the blood from when she was impaled. I mean, it's healed because of John, but you can still see it, and I find that very funny.
Blake's like, "You sure?"
Like, "Are you hurt?" "No." You have that nice little gash right there.
And then, more importantly, I think Weiss is a little surprised. Not only to see Blake, obviously, but she also says something about how she remembers Blake being
the quiet one. Not today.
So that speaks again to all of the character development that's happened in tremendous amounts since since these characters last met or were last together, which was like 2 volumes ago.
Yep.
A lot has happened since then.
Very much so.
So yeah, Blake's changed, and Weiss notices, and that's good.
Yes, that is good. And then they ask RWBY, "Hey, what's the plan?" And she uses checkmate, which is something we haven't heard in a long time.
That was cute.
Yeah,
yes.
We haven't heard that since volume 2.
Yeah, that was a really nice throwback. And it's like, because they're all together, it was good to see.
It was.
And then, also, in that same time, Leo makes a run for it.
Yes, predictably. Leo runs.
Tucks his tail between his legs and runs.
Yep.
And Mercury's like,
"Are you kidding?" No,
that's
almost every other male character.
Yeah, to be fair, you're right.
He doesn't sigh. He's one of the few that doesn't do that. All right, you ready for going back into the vault?
Yes, and then we transition back into the vault, into what is probably the best scene in this episode.
Arguably the best scene in this episode.
Possibly the volume.
That is an argument I would go against, but
I mean,
if you want to say in terms of, I don't even want to say in terms of personal growth.
I would say what other personal growth do you think is better than this scene?
Probably Blake's.
Okay, but my favorite Blake personal growth moment happened in volume 4.
Okay.
Which is when she has a conversation with Sun.
Okay.
Right?
I mean, that was a very important personal growth moment, but I kind of see this most of this volume as Blake's.
No, I agree with you.
Yes.
But I'm saying in terms of single scenes.
I mean, I also found some of Yang's earlier scenes also a bit more...
Okay, disagree.
Okay.
But that's okay.
That's fair.
Let's talk about this one first.
Yes. Raven's comments of, "Oh, you would have been fine. You're my daughter after all." My gosh. And then later in the conversation, "You don't know me." Holy crud. I was unhappy. I was unhappy with those two sentences being in the same conversation. It's just there's something wrong about that.
Yeah, so I can't really do the conversation justice. I don't think I can't relay it line for line. No. But it's a great conversation. And it starts off, like Tristan said, with Raven's talking to Yang, and she says, "You know, it's nothing personal. I warned you. I give you plenty of opportunities to join my side." Mm-hmm. And then she goes on to talk about the fight, and she says, "Oh, I know you'd be fine. I knew you could handle it." Yeah. Which I'm not really so sure about, but yeah.
Yeah, Yang points out, are you sure that you thought I would have been fine, or you just did that because you knew you'd be able to get what you wanted out of it?
Right. Jumping ahead to later in the conversation, mm-hmm. which I think is what you just did there.
Slightly, yes.
Yes. Yeah. One important thing that Yang says is, to all of this that Raven is presenting to her, is, mm-hmm. well, what is it? Are you merciful or are you a survivor?
Yes.
Let's lead up to that first, because there's an important bit before that.
Very much
which
so.
is Yang starts asking questions.
Yes.
Which, as she has been ever since she met with her mother.
Yes.
And she asks a question that I think we've all been wondering, mm-hmm. which is, what happened with the Spring Maiden?
We did. And last time we talked about how Cinder brought up how mm-hmm. Raven became the Spring Maiden, calling her a monster as well.
That's right, yep.
And we were discussing how maybe she didn't
Personally,
kill the Spring Maiden, but yes. It appears we were wrong.
I just want to say that I was wrong about a lot of things in the previous episode, and you know what? That's okay.
It is.
I embrace that. And I, particularly in this case, I thought that Raven didn't kill the Spring Maiden. Mm-hmm. I thought that she just seemed cruel sometimes, mm-hmm. but she was actually a very compassionate person.
Yes.
But it's a little more complicated than that.
It is much more complicated than that, and I also admit I got some things wrong.
It happens.
Leo is a pretty good indicator.
Yeah, we're going to get there.
But we will get there.
Yeah, so long story short, Yang says it's written all over your face.
Yes.
You did kill her.
She didn't outright say that, but it's pretty obvious. And yes. Also that Raven does feel bad about it.
Yes.
She does call it an act of mercy, but still in the way that she talks about it and how frustrated she got about it, and that she's pretty much just yelling at her daughter about it. She's very scarred by this decision, in my opinion.
Yes, Raven is endlessly justifying her actions here.
Yes.
When she says that she came to us and she was scared no matter how much training I gave her.
Yeah.
You know, she wouldn't accept her powers. Mm-hmm. She was weak.
Yep.
Killing her was a mercy.
Yes.
And that's pretty heavy.
That is very heavy. I mean, I'm very curious as to why Raven would even want the powers anyway.
Well, okay. I'm going to get to that in a second. But
okay.
One thing I wanted to mention was we were toying with this theory a little last episode, 2 episodes
mm-hmm.
ago.
Sure.
That Summer was the Spring Maiden.
Oh yeah, that's debunked in my opinion.
Do you think so?
I do. I think that's very much debunked.
I think it would be really interesting if Summer, if this, I don't, because sorry. Let me say that again.
Sure.
I think it would be interesting if it
mm-hmm.
was the case that Summer was the Spring Maiden and Raven was the one that killed her.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there is evidence against the fact that Summer was killed by Raven and that she sacrificed herself to save a bunch of people, assumingly from a bunch of Grimm.
Well, what
also
evidence do we have of that? I know
I'm trying.
There's the song.
Mm-hmm. There's the song. I believe there was also discussion at Summer's grave about that as well.
By who?
I'm having difficulty remembering. I'm going to be perfectly honest.
Okay, personally,
mm-hmm.
I don't remember that.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think back to the song about what specifically is presented to us.
Mm-hmm.
And all I'm remembering right now is the part where she warns Ruby not to waste her life in vain.
Okay.
I don't remember any hard evidence against that. But even if there is, just like, just set that aside for a moment. I think it would be cool if she was the Spring Maiden and Raven was the one that killed her. And I think it does sort of fit with, it vaguely fits with what we know.
I don't think
in the fact that, I guess Summer's dead.
Summer's not a little girl that couldn't be trained, that couldn't, maybe couldn't deal with her powers, assuming she had them, but
maybe not.
I don't think killing Summer would be an act of mercy. If the conversation had gone, I found her wounded in battle, and as an act of mercy finished her off, that could maybe line up with it.
It's an act of mercy because the Spring Maiden doesn't have to deal with the burden of the powers, i.e. Salem hunting them.
But Raven's not exactly one that likes to take burdens upon herself.
So, talking about that.
Yeah.
So, in response to this, when Raven says it was an act of mercy, Yang says, as I said before, so what is it? Are you most merciful or are you a survivor? And I think that's a really good question because it really brings to attention this central issue with Raven's identity. What I got from this and what I've got from what we've seen from her previously is that she's obviously a complicated person.
Yes.
And that by and large, at her core, she seems to be a compassionate person who cares about her family, cares about her friends a great deal. But when she gets scared or when things get hard, like Yang says later, she doesn't really deal with that well. And she retreats into this cruel persona and she justifies her actions, whatever they may be. She justifies her running away from her family. She justifies her setting up the ambush from Yang. Oh, you could deal with it. And she justifies her killing the Spring Maiden. And I think that's really the central conflict of Raven, right?
It seems like fear is a driving factor that pushes her away from those that she cares about, which is very unfortunate because fear is a very driving factor in pretty much any sort of living species with sentience, and it can make people do a lot of horrible things. So
right, and as we saw, that's part of the reason I think why she is a little more forgiving of Leo, as we saw earlier.
Agreed.
Because Leo is very obviously motivated by fear. Raven hides it a little better. But it's at its core, it's the same motivation.
Yeah, something I just thought of actually is that Raven, if an act of mercy to kill the Spring Maiden, is if the Spring Maiden couldn't use her powers and Salem's troop were to show up to her camp and the Spring Maiden wouldn't be able to defend their camp, then Salem would get more powerful simply because she would get her hands on the Spring Maiden. And in general, it would be worse for arguably the entire world, assuming Salem's motivations is the end of humanity. So in that act, it is somewhat an act of mercy, because here you have this potentially small child that doesn't know how to use these immense amount of powers that's simply going to be hunted for them by a force that, if it gets its hands on it, is going to use them for evil.
Right. And I think that's basically what Raven thought.
Probably.
But Raven says, part of what Raven says is that I have the strength to make choices that other people won't.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's exactly what she thought when she decided to kill the former Spring Maiden. She saw it as a tough choice, and she saw it as sort of, I'd think, this sort of selfless act of mercy, because she was taking on this burden because of this strength that she thinks she has.
Indeed. And also, I think it shows that you can't necessarily just give away Spring Maiden powers, like I talked about, I think, 2 episodes ago, where that might have been a possibility that seems to be probably arguably impossible.
Yeah.
That you can't just gift them away. They have to either get taken by force or passed on.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
So then, back to what I said.
Yes.
Moving on to my favorite part of this conversation.
Okay.
Raven says, I'm strong enough to do what others won't.
Yes.
And then Yang says, you don't know strength.
Mm-hmm.
Knock it off. Or whatever she says before that.
Yeah. She says, oh, shut up. What?
Yeah. You don't know the first thing about strength.
Yes.
And she points out all the things that Raven does. She says that, you know, she runs away when things get hard. Mm-hmm. She puts others in harm's way to protect herself.
Yes.
Which we've seen over and over again.
Very much so.
And then she says my favorite line, which is, you might be powerful, but that doesn't make you strong.
Mm-hmm. While shaking, which is fair. I do think that is a very well put set of statements by Yang, and it really shows how much she has grown, because you don't have to be... Being powerful is something that she used to think she was. Like, her semblance was, oh man, I can punch a guy and send him flying.
Exactly.
And now that doesn't mean you're strong.
Right.
And she has fully embraced and understood that idea by going through it.
Yes. And let's just, Yang was formerly one of my least favorites of the 4 RWBY girls.
Okay.
In terms of character depth and stuff.
I think I agree.
But after this volume, in this episode, in this scene in particular, she has risen up the ranks for me, because the amount of maturity and growth that she showed throughout this fight was incredible, in my opinion.
I can't argue that.
Every aspect of the fight, really. She showed that she was disciplined. She showed that she could think clearly on conflict and that she wouldn't let her emotions overwhelm her.
Yes.
And when she had the strength to go down to face her mother in the vault, and then she does this amazing speech to her.
Yes.
And she brings up a good point of what she's learned, that she's learned really what strength is. And yeah,
I don't think I can really add much more to that. Yang has truly grown and has shown it throughout this entire volume, that she has really become a strong, in a very different sense, and that she's really going to be able to play a big part, in my opinion, later down the line.
Right, definitely.
One thing I want to jump back to
okay,
is when Yang asks, did you kill her too? I assume that she's talking about Vernal, because, Vernal's corpse is right there.
Yes, that's what I assumed as well.
And the face that Raven makes, you don't even get to see it because she turns around. No, doesn't turn around, she looks away. Because I guess maybe some of what Yang's is telling her hits home, or maybe the fact that she regrets that Vernal died, or that she can see that sometimes the choices that she makes leads to mistakes and people dying.
Right.
And
that's a good point.
And her response is that she starts justifying.
Yes.
As you mentioned, she just pretty much says, I've looked death in the face and spat back on, that's why I'm still alive and that's why I'm so strong, which is leading directly into the, oh, shut up. You don't know what strength is. But the way that she was trying to justify it, and that the fact that her powers started flaring up, was really my biggest moment of believing that she's super troubled about how she deals with things, and that she kind of feels like she doesn't have another way. That she's kind of pigeonholed into the way that she does things, and she doesn't know a better way of how to try to deal with all of these difficult choices and scenarios that have people's lives on the line, and potentially some fate of the world on the line and such, that she's gotten herself into something maybe much bigger than she can currently handle.
Yeah, I think that's true. And that's a good point. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
To continue.
Yes.
With the conversation. After that line about being powerful.
Yeah.
Raven talks about how Yang is. She seems weak. She's shaking like a little girl.
I don't think
right?
She doesn't say she's weak.
Well, she doesn't say she's weak, but
she
like
says how dare you?
That's the insinuation.
Do you believe so?
Well,
I don't think it's that she's weak. It's that she's afraid, which is something that Raven can relate with. And which is why she sees her daughter telling her, how dare you lecture me about being afraid almost.
Right. That's what I was trying to say. I think maybe weak was the wrong word.
Yes.
But what I meant is that, Raven, exactly like you said, she's why are you trying to lecture me about this when you're clearly
also afraid? And then Yang responds with, I forget exactly what she responds with, but essentially it turns into, that yes, I might be afraid, but I'm still going to stand there. I'm going to stand up for what I know I need to. Yep. Unlike you, I'm not like you.
Yeah, that's basically what she says.
And that's why you're going to give me the relic.
Right.
And then why the heck would I? Because you're afraid of Salem more than I am.
Real power move on Yang's part.
Yeah, that was good.
Just a side note. Mm-hmm. The parallels between Raven and Blake.
Mm-hmm.
It felt a little bit to me when she was at that final part when she was talking to Raven.
Yeah.
When she was like, "Yeah, I'm scared, but I'm here and I won't run." Okay. It felt to me like she was sort of talking to Blake.
I mean, it works for both.
Yeah.
Especially since you have the parallels of how Blake used to run away and now she's not going to. And you have Yang's mother who is going to run.
Right.
When given the opportunity to.
To stay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to point out that I think that statement was fueled by her feelings about Blake. And then
I would say it's fueled by her feelings in general of feeling abandoned.
Yeah. Yes.
But it works for both Blake and her mother. And
just to point this out really quickly, and of course we'll come back to this.
Yes.
I don't mean to jump ahead too far.
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, she doesn't say this to Blake when she does come back, just simply because Blake has chosen to come back.
Yeah.
She hasn't decided to run, and that's why Yang sees that strength in Blake, that Blake has grown, which is the same strength that Yang has grown.
Developed. That's an interesting way of putting it. I think when we get there, we can elaborate a little bit more on that.
Okay. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. One thing I want to mention is it seems like when Yang mentioned you realize if you have a relic and maiden powers, you are pretty much the biggest target on the list now.
Right. And that's...
I did Raven just not think of that?
No, I was talking about that before.
I know.
Because I was like, what's her end game?
Yeah.
Like, does she think she's going to be able to stand up to Salem with the combination of the relic and the maiden powers?
I don't.
And I think the answer is that, I mean, Raven is smart. Raven's a conniving planner. But I think that, she was also blinded by her fear there, I think.
Maybe.
I think she just, I mean, her plan was to get the relic because that was like the only path that she could see. Mm-hmm. But it still wasn't a very good plan.
Or maybe she was trying to step up and realize, okay, the best, if it's better if I get the relic than the bad guy's getting the relic. But now since someone else can get the relic instead of me, and it's not the bad guys, that's good. That's just as good. Actually, that's better for her.
Right, and that's what Yang says, of course.
Yes.
Because she does have a point.
She does. Yeah, she's not wrong that Raven's life is not necessarily forfeit, but certainly in danger. Much more danger than it is now. And it doesn't matter how far she tries to fly away, Salem would probably eventually find her.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
And then...
Yeah. Oh, and I was just kind of thinking, is she then going to let her daughter take on that risk? Because she did say, Yang, you don't want to do this. And Yang said, I don't, but I will.
Right.
Which really attests to, and then she walked right by her mother and brushed her right in the shoulder. Ooh. That was...
This whole scene is really sad, and it's really touching.
It is.
And, just going back to what you said, Raven warns her again, you don't want to do this, Yang. And Yang says, you're right. I don't want to do this. But she says she has the strength to do it anyway. Yeah. And, I mean, that really it brings up again the whole point of this, which is the difference in, like, the sort of internal strength between Raven and Yang. Raven's doing exactly what Yang said she was, in that she's letting others be placed in harm's way. Here, specifically, having a target painted on their back by the relic, instead of herself, when it's convenient. And Yang is doing what she said, in that she may be scared, but she's not going to run away. She's going to stand and face Salem.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's just the whole thing right there. And then Raven feels bad about this, obviously.
Yeah.
She starts crying.
Yes. Raven and Yang both get emotional over this. And
first, Raven starts crying.
Yes.
And because she understands, I think, that
she can't take care of her daughter in the way that her daughter needs to get taken care of, and it's going to put a target on her daughter's back by not stepping up.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
And also for just the fact that their relationship is a mess.
Yes, that too. But she realizes, I think, that what Yang said is pretty much true.
Yeah.
And that Yang is a stronger person than she is.
Certainly at the moment.
I mean, emotionally.
Yes.
She still might get wrecked in a fight, but...
she would get...
yeah,
but that's power, not strength.
Exactly.
As Yang aptly put it.
As Yang put, yes.
Yeah. And then how they both apologize, simply because I think they really want to try to make it work, but at the moment...
They both apologize?
Yes. Yang says, yeah, me too.
That wasn't an apology.
Really? I mean, that wasn't a direct apology, but I believe she's trying to say, I'm sorry.
No.
You don't think so?
Definitely not.
Okay.
No. Raven says she's sorry.
Yes.
And then Yang says, yeah, me too. Like, she's sorry it has to be this way. Not like, I apologize to you.
No, yes. I agree with that. Yeah.
She's sorry it has to be this way because she doesn't want to take on this burden. She's sorry she has to be stronger than
her mom.
She has to do what her mom should do. And, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I can agree with that. And one thing I want to mention now is that when you mentioned earlier that you believe that this was arguably one of the best scenes in the entire volume, I think after this conversation I can come around to the idea and believe that it's certainly up there in terms of one of the best scenes in this volume, and really highlights a lot of Yang's developmental growth, mainly by just putting her mother and her, just contrasting the two and showing what Yang was and what she is now.
I agree.
Okay. Now, we find out the relic is a lantern.
Yep. So Yang steps through the magic door into the magic world where everything is...
sand.
Blurry and also slowly disappearing upwards.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Kind of.
It's certainly a different reality of some sort.
They were like, ooh, particle effects. We haven't used enough of those.
Yeah, we haven't used enough particle effects. Come on. But it was interesting. She stepped in and clearly it was a physical space because she crunched on the sand.
You're right. That's a good point, yeah.
Which, interesting.
I didn't actually register that, but that is a good point.
Yeah, it is a physical space somewhere. Where? I have no idea. Because that clearly, as far as I can tell, isn't anywhere in the vicinity. And Yang kind of just grabbed the lantern, looked at it, and then broke down crying.
Yeah.
which I think really, which is why I was thinking more along the lines of that she was trying to apologize to her mother because she's really sad that this is what the relationship with her mother is like, and she wishes it could be different. She wishes it could be better. Right. She wishes they could be on the same side, but they can't.
Right. Yeah.
So
she is.
Yeah.
She is sorry.
She is very sorry.
She's sorry about the whole thing, and she's sad about the whole thing because she realizes that, you know, her life is about to get even harder than it already is.
Yeah.
Because, you know, all of this power is great, but as we see, it's always a burden too.
Yeah.
For every person that has power, you know, it also comes with a price.
Yeah.
From the maidens to the relics, as we'll see, to Ozpin.
Yes.
To
arguably Salem, but we can get
arguably
there.
Salem, and also to Cinder.
Yeah.
We saw her lusting after power without any regard for the consequences, and
that didn't go well.
We know how that went for her.
Well, we don't know this conclusion, but
okay,
we can speculate.
We know. Okay, yeah, sure. Let's just leave that there.
Yeah. Okay.
And one thing I just wanted to point out,
yes,
because I have it written down, but I just wanted to point out that the fact that Yang doesn't have her arm throughout all of this
is great.
It does a really good job of just highlighting the central theme of power versus strength.
Yes. And it just shows that what she was with her arm is much less than what she is without it.
That was a good sentence.
Thank you.
Yes, you're right.
I love the fact that she didn't have her arm the entire time. It
yeah.
just really shows her, hey, look, it's Yang with her right arm. Okay, here's Yang without it. Holy crud, she's amazing.
You're right. You're 100% right.
Yeah. That all you need to do is lose a limb. It's fine. No, please, I don't want anyone else to lose a limb.
If I learned anything from RWBY.
Yeah. Actually, now if we think about it, how many people have lost limbs? A fair amount of people have lost limbs.
You got Yang, we have Yang, Cinder.
Ironwood arguably lost limbs and other things.
Yes, that's true.
There are probably more somewhere. Mercury.
Well, yeah. Oh, true. Mercury has robot legs. If you count Tyrion's tail as a limb, which
I would.
You could.
He's Faunus. I would.
Yeah, sure.
I would count his tail as part of his body.
Why not?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We get to see a lot of new limbs.
It's like Star Wars.
Oh no. I mean, it's certainly possible they took that motif from that, but especially when you think of, oh, hey, look, they lost their arm, and look how much better they are now that they have something else.
I just wanted to say, while we're on this topic about losing limbs,
yes,
I really like that. I really like I haven't said it on the podcast, I don't think. I said it to you before in conversation, but one of my favorite parts about RWBY is how much the characters change and how much they develop.
Yes.
And obviously you could see that in these last two episodes, just in like the normal character development and their arcs. But a big part of that to me is that, you know, the writers aren't afraid to make drastic changes to their characters in terms of Yang loses her arm.
Yes.
Or, I mean, even just Pyrrha dies and then playing out explicitly how that affects everyone's emotions.
Yes.
Or the same thing with Penny.
Yeah.
And then even on the other side, when Cinder is scarred, you see how much that dramatically affects her character.
Yes.
And that, I mean, more than just her outfit.
Yeah.
You know, she can't talk.
Not for a while.
Yeah, and it just changes their character dramatically. And I really like that because I don't think a lot of shows have that much dramatic development. Or if they do, it's really just that.
Much more subtle.
I was going to say, that's true. But I was going to say, or it's just like they just kill characters off.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that RWBY does kill characters off sometimes, but more so it changes its characters a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about it.
It really shows the emotional aspect and the ripples that emotional conflict and events have on multiple people. Events, like drastic events, don't typically hurt one person. It's like, oh man, this one person. It hurts a lot of people. And RWBY does a very good job of showing that in subtle and drastic ways. So I can certainly agree with you on that.
Come for the fights, stay for the emotional impact.
Bam. All right. Just on the topic of the relic, I mean, I think it's a bit more pressing later. But what the frick do you think this does? Just speculation, quick speculation on what the hell do you think this little tiny lantern does? Actually, it's actually a lot. It's not tiny. It's
it's
large.
Moderately sized.
Because I want to speculate it's kind of a
I really am.
Silver Eyes light boom kind of thing where it's going to have just a radiation of power similar to Silver Eyes.
I feel like it's probably more intricate than that.
I hope so. But that is the only speculation I have at the moment.
My speculation would, if I had to speculate, if someone forced me at gunpoint, what I would say is that it probably has something to do with lanterns or lamps being something that lights the way, something maybe being a symbol of like knowledge or clarity, something like that.
It is knowledge.
It is after all the relic of knowledge. Yeah. So that probably has, just symbolically into its physical shape, that seems to be playing into it. And I'd imagine its effect is something to do, with knowledge, but I don't really know what that would be.
What do you think the odds are it's like an all-seeing orb kind of thing?
Low? Low?
Low?
Seems, yes.
I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry.
The odds, yeah.
For some reason, I just thought of a comic called Low where light and other things is relevant. I don't know why. Okay, we're fine.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Please do. All right. Now we get to move into the great scene of Leo running away.
Yeah.
My gosh, Leo. At times, I had such high hopes.
You did. And that's what makes this funny.
Yeah. Oh, Your Grace, I'm looking for something. Goodness gracious, Leo. You couldn't have come up with a better excuse when your life is on the line.
All right, so I just want to say that, there's not a lot that happens in this scene. There is, but it's really, the point is that Leo's a sniveling coward, and he dies.
Okay, I think there's a little bit more you can draw from this.
There is more you can draw from it, but, I'm just exasperated at Leo.
Okay, this is true that the entire time you had very little faith in Leo.
And I was right.
You were very warranted.
All right, you go on to what you're going to say.
All right. Few things. One, I like how Salem's observer, I forget what, overseer?
Seer, I think.
They're called seers? Okay.
I believe, but I could be wrong.
It just kind of hissed. It was just kind of like, grrr. Leo says, Your Grace, and just like, grrr. It's like, is this really Leo? Come on. Really? Come on, don't do
Yeah.
it. And then when he had tried to attack it, it's just like, are you kidding me? Come on, Leo. It's like, don't worry, I can be useful. No, you're pretty much done. There are no more uses for you.
Yeah,
and which is very accurate. What they all know, you're on my side now. You couldn't get the relic. You're not a very good fighter. You're not gonna have any influence anywhere else now. You're a loose end. You have information about me. It'd kill you.
And you would probably switch sides in a heartbeat if the other side
would let him.
Threatened him with death.
Oh.
Or something.
Yeah, which I don't think Oz would do.
Well,
we don't know that.
Yeah.
But okay. What do you want to
say? Yeah, I was just gonna say, the point is, Leo is trying to make excuses here.
Yeah.
And obviously they're all
bad.
Not real. Salem
sees through this and kills him brutally. But yeah.
And my summary for this was kind of what I said before, where I just wanted to say that he died as he lived, an idiotic, sniffling coward, which is kind of harsh.
It is.
But it's also true.
It is. I also, the way that it just kind of went, please, was, I don't think that necessarily shows that Salem is a person that is cruel or brutal, because when she was just kind of looking at her seer on the other side.
Well, she's not sadistic. Not like Cinder is.
Not at all. I actually think that if this could have been avoided, just simply killing him, she probably would have. Not necessarily, partially because he was a very useful pawn.
Right.
But also because I don't think she necessarily, unless if her true motive is just the end of all humanity, just wants to kill everyone.
Right. You're right, and that's a good point to bring up. Like, her motive is not to kill people explicitly, like meaninglessly, and she is smart and she's a schemer and she uses people.
Yes.
And she doesn't kill them unless she has to, because she believes that everyone can serve a purpose.
Yes.
And she's right for the most part.
She is. She is right for the most part. And also, although there wasn't much, in my opinion, to get out of this, the way that she was kind of just looking at the seer, you just gotta look at her face. It's a fairly blank expression, not really showing too much emotion, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it kind of felt not necessarily angry or sad that this happened.
Right.
But
you're right.
But more that, for me, it just really feels like she isn't just a cruel person.
Definitely, yeah.
Which makes me feel she has some sort of goal in mind that is justified.
Almost certain. Well, we'll see.
Exactly.
I was about to agree with that, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll clearly have to see what her motives truly are, because the way they are posted and painted to us as the viewer at the moment, I believe, is at least somewhat over-exaggerated.
I agree with that.
And also probably, I don't want to say that they're propaganda.
I mean, I think it's the case that Salem's views are there. I mean, it's possible that she is quote-unquote evil. Yeah. We're not seeing the full picture.
Yeah.
I think that her views are being exaggerated towards bad, and contrarily, I think Ozpin's views are being exaggerated towards good. Just because we're seeing it through the perspective of Team RWBY, who is, they're entranced by
Oz,
Huntsman and Ozpin and the glamour of being huntresses.
I think that's starting to change a little bit for a few of them.
Definitely, especially with Yang.
Very much so, which is...
Ask questions.
Yes. And I think Blake would also be able to stretch to that degree, and I think Weiss would also be able to get there. I think at the moment, the one that would have the most difficulty...
Questioning Ozpin?
Would be RWBY, but I don't think it would be difficult to convert her.
And okay. I'm interested to see where this goes. That goes.
Yes, indeed.
And I think that maybe, not to look ahead too far, but hopefully by the end of Volume 6, we might get a clearer perspective on what's really going on here.
I think we will get a much clearer, well, maybe not much, but I think we will get more clues as to what is truly going on and people's motivations.
If I've learned anything from RWBY, don't trust what they show you.
Not at least fully.
They're probably misleading you, and they're going to kill off a main character.
Don't worry, someone's going to die.
Yeah, anyway, there's probably more going on than there seems.
Indeed.
And there were two more things I wanted to mention about that scene.
Please do.
One of them is kind of like, not really a thing, but I'll mention it anyway.
Sure.
So recently, for whatever reason, I watched the opening cutscene for Skyrim.
Sure.
And Tristan's like, yeah, whatever. And it was like immediately before rewatching this episode and watching Leo's death.
Okay.
And like, obviously during the Skyrim opening scene, like you're being executed.
Yes.
And the Nords in that scene, they're very like gung-ho about going to their deaths, and they like embrace going to their deaths with honor.
Yeah.
And they're like, hurry up, I don't want to keep the gods waiting.
Yeah.
My ancestors are smiling upon me, Imperials. Can you say the same?
Yeah.
Like that. And it was just such a strong contrast to me with Leo's death.
Okay.
Because Leo's like, please, no, I don't want to die, please.
Yeah.
And that was just such a strong contrast to me, and that's part of the reason why I was looking down on him. I would have looked down on him anyway for that.
You would have, yeah.
When I die, I hope I go more like the Nords, less like Leo. Okay. Realistically,
we'll find out.
But
one of these days.
We'll find out. That was ominous. Anyway,
we all die eventually.
The other thing.
Hey, we fit death into the podcast. Yay!
Hooray!
Hooray!
The other thing that I wanted to mention was that, and I think this is something else that I've mentioned to you before, but not on the podcast.
Sure.
Is, we see Salem sitting in her castle at the end of this scene, and it really reminded me about this theory I was having before about, why can't, or this question I had before, about why can't Salem leave, or why doesn't Salem leave her castle? And I think this reinforced what I thought before was that she couldn't for some reason, which we haven't seen yet. And I think that this episode reinforced that for me.
Okay.
Because I think that this was a big moment for her team.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably bigger than the fall of Beacon, because, well, probably not, but comparable in scale to the fall of Beacon. This time because they knew there was the relic there, and they were going to get it. Whereas in Beacon, they didn't know where the relic was, but it was also the first one. But whatever. Anyway, it's comparable, and it was a big deal for her.
Okay.
So I think that she would have been there if she could have been there. Personally.
Okay, I don't. The main reason is because I think she has a much bigger goal in mind that involves, okay, if I can't get the relics one at a time, Osmond might do it for me. She might be able to grand swoop, take a whole bunch of stuff that she needs at one time. And why show her hand as the leader potentially of the Grimm and then have every single other person in the entire world be against her instantly? Like, as soon as it is known around the world that she exists, it's either mass fear, which would work for her, or unification, which is the worst possible thing that could happen for her.
You're right, yes. That's a good point.
Her playing her hand is very dangerous for her.
I just feel like her showing up to this particular instance and making sure that they get the relic, I feel like that's not the same as revealing her presence to the world. Because no one's there except people who already know about her. Or...
Cops showed up.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah. I just don't think it's big enough for her to show her face. She is, as far as we know, the boss. She's the main villain and how it is currently painted.
I just think it's... I mean, I see what you're saying, and I agree with you. I just think it's really suspicious that she doesn't leave. And I think that there must be a reason.
There might be. I mean, I'm not trying to discount the idea that she can't leave, because I'm also starting to feel that she might not be able to for reasons we don't understand. And it's possible that all these relics and all these maiden powers might be so that she can break free.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Huh.
And
I didn't think of that.
Yeah. Maybe she's just fighting for her own freedom.
Oh, man. I guess we'll have to go back and look for, like, lantern symbology. Like, shots of Salem's base or something. Thanks, Tristan.
I'm sorry. I mean, also, it depends on what the other relics look like, too. Because then that might really draw, like, oh, hey, look
Probably
at this.
not all relics. But
Our lanterns.
That's not what... you know what I meant.
I really hope not.
They're not going to be.
Oh, hey, look, it's a lantern with a different color. I really
It's definitely just a lantern because knowledge and stuff.
If it is, then then to me that really feels like, oh, hey, this is meant to unlock something, because it's like, oh, you put up the lanterns, like all four of them, they all start glowing, and then a door opens or something. That would feel very I'm pretty sure they're
disappointing. Not going to be lanterns.
I really hope not.
But I think this one has a good reason for being a lantern, so it's fine.
I hope so. Anyways,
to
the surface.
What were we talking about? Right, yeah.
We were talking
so that was the end. So Yang recovers the relic in the vault, which we mentioned like 20 minutes ago.
That's fine.
And back up to the surface.
Emerald, Cinder's gonna come up and beat all y'all. You guys are all gonna just get blown away.
Love her accent.
I'm sorry.
No, I was being serious. I do. You were like trying to do a little accent thing there.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, she has a lot of faith in Cinder. I don't blame her.
She won't let us down.
She won't let us down, which I like. I like how much Emerald has faith in Cinder, considering Cinder has given her everything. Yes. And we don't know their backstory that well in terms of their dynamic. We know a good amount. Yes. We know how they met, which is pretty important.
Yep.
But we don't know how they've developed over after that.
That's true.
And maybe Cinder has really shown herself as a leader to that small troop. And also we have seen how much Cinder has been able to do.
Right.
Although we've truly found out that the mind behind it all is most likely Salem and Co. But that Cinder did a very good job of making it work.
Cinder was very competent up until when she died, or when she possibly died.
Yeah.
She did everything right.
She underestimated her foe a little bit.
And Emerald does really have every reason to believe in her. And I think it's really touching that she does.
Me too.
And I was really happy to see it. And I think that it really underscores the emotion that she feels when Yang rises up out of the vault, holding what can only be the relic.
Yeah. And then Emerald, in response, starts freaking out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, first everyone's just staring at Yang.
Yeah.
They're like...
Bad guys that go... Hazel gets pissed. Emerald gets sad. All the good guys go... Yeah.
Let's be real. She looks like such a boss coming out here. Like, 4 people came down, only 1 came up.
Yep. The one that came up is missing an arm. Come on.
She looks really cool there, and she wasn't even trying.
Nope.
Anyway, everyone's in awe of that. And as you said, of course, Emerald starts to cry.
Starts crying.
Because
she falls on the ground.
I think Cinder was one of the only people in her life that really cared about her.
Yeah.
Based on what we know about her backstory.
Yeah. I would say the only other one might be Mercury.
Yeah. And even if Cinder was doing that for selfish reasons, she was still looking out for Emerald in a way that I don't think that Emerald had ever felt before.
Correct.
So I think it was sort of like losing a parent figure, I feel, for Emerald.
Or at least someone she looked up to / cared about. An important figure in her life.
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily a parent.
Yeah.
But certainly someone that mattered, like maybe an older sister or something.
Yeah, something like that. But semantics aside, Emerald cries.
And then eventually releases her powers.
Just want to point out that this is the 3rd crying we've seen this episode. A lot of crying.
Good point.
And that was kind of a joke, but, like, seriously?
No.
No. I mean, I think that just points out that, like, how important the episode is emotionally.
It is.
And, I mean, usually the finales we're used to, maybe. Well, yeah. Usually if the finales are used to, they're, like, focused on the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference this time around is that we got to have a finale that was more focused on the growth and the development rather than... Because there weren't really any fights.
Yeah. It was a good capstone to this entire volume, which for the most part has been growth and development of characters, somewhat through fights and interactions.
Yeah, the conclusion of the growth and development.
Yes.
Yeah. And, so then, as you said, she lets loose her powers.
Yes.
Which was terrifying. And was also... Obviously, this whole thing is great parallels to the opening. Of course, because it all literally happens in the opening.
Yeah, although not in that exact manner, and
not literally, but like pretty close.
And none of Team RWBY went like, "Oh yeah, let's fight this." They're like, "Frick no."
They were posed for that. Did you see that?
No, yeah, they were ready to go.
Because Weiss was like, she was about to do the jump. Like she was in position, she was ready to go. Like it would have happened.
It could have.
But yeah.
I also liked how calm Oz and Crow kind of were when it showed. They're like, "Oh, okay."
Right. Well, at least they knew what they were seeing.
That's true.
And one thing I just wanted to point out is obviously Emerald is very emotional here.
Yeah.
And it seems to be I just wanted to point out that she seems to use this emotional burst to vastly amplify her powers. Not only in obviously it was a terrifying, large-scale illusion. Yes. That alone is impressive because most of the illusions we've seen have been people-sized, roughly.
To our knowledge.
But, from what we've seen. Actually, I think they've all been people.
They have all been people, yes.
Huh. Anyway, more importantly, in Volume 3, after she does the whole Mercury thing, Mercury-Yang thing, one thing that she says to Mercury afterwards, after they do the thing where they go away in the ambulance thing, she mentions to Mercury that something about usually I can, doing illusions on one person is no big deal, but 2 people it's like a stretch for her, and she's like she's tired, she's a headache, whatever. By my count, Emerald's illusion in this room affects 8 people.
Mm-hmm.
Team RWBY.
Yes.
Ren and Nora.
Yep.
Ozpin and Crow.
Yep.
Which is 8.
Oh, and John.
I knew I was forgetting someone. All right, 9 people.
Okay.
And John.
Yeah. Pretty impressive. She did pass out immediately, though.
Yes, she did pass out, and Hazel was carrying her, so that's fair. But I just wanted to point out how much stronger that her illusion here was than normal.
Seemingly charged by emotion, which goes on to your theory that maybe bringing out power comes through emotion, which could then go directly back to the Silver Eye stuff.
And the Grimm.
I mean, the Grimm are fueled by negative human well, not necessarily fueled, they're attracted. We don't know if they're fueled by it.
Right, and you were talking about how perhaps they were caused by negative emotion.
Yes.
And I was just thinking about perhaps semblances also has a tie-ins to emotion.
I would believe it as typically human ability in terms of how much they can dish out is somewhat correlated to emotions. Because if they're feeling out of it, they're not necessarily going to be able to have a good output. But if they're feeling really good about and confident about something, then they can usually do a bit more. So I can certainly see how emotions could play a role.
It seems like they're very connected to me.
Yes. You are probably very correct on that in that matter.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about something else.
Sure.
This isn't a well-formulated thought, really, because I was just thinking about it as you were talking. But I was just thinking about the role that emotions probably play in our story. And I think that they probably do play a pretty integral part in describing, obviously not only semblances and Grimm, but I think there might be other aspects to it as well that we haven't really explored. And what I was thinking of was that thinking about the Salem squad, the type of people that she attracts.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about them and how it seems to me that they all, or at least the 3 of them that we really know things about, they really exemplify certain emotions or character aspects. They seem to have like a defining character trait. And I was thinking, that made me think about that potentially being foreshadowed by what Blake was saying. Who knows how many episodes ago, when she was talking with some about, have you ever met someone and thought, this person is the definition of the word
spite in terms for Adam.
Yeah. And so you just made me think about how I feel like the Salem squad, I feel like they're all caricatures of different emotions, and I think they could all be described by Blake somehow. I think that, Cinder is something like lust for power, greed, avarice, whatever you want to say. Hazel, it seems like he would be
wrath.
Yeah, anger, rage, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
And then Tyrion, I'm not really sure how you would describe him, but he's very much defined by his sycophantic behavior, his adoration, his idolization of Salem. I'm not sure what the correct word for that would be.
Not subservient.
Yeah. I'm not going to try to think about it right now.
Let's not do that.
But I think that he could be described in the same way. Okay. And I think that I don't think we know enough about Watts to really quantify him in that way, in the same way that we didn't know enough about Hazel until he went crazy to quantify him in that way.
Crazy.
But, right now...
pretty sane to me.
Right now I'm thinking like Pride or something.
Okay. I would believe that.
Just off the cuff.
Yeah.
Which, obviously just pointing out a lot of 7 Deadly Sins parallels, which is a common theme in animes in general.
I mean, I'm kind of curious if they're more based off kind of a lore fable kind of thing, which I think the 7 Deadly Sins can line up with that fairly nicely, because a lot of characters are epitomized, or at least in terms of their form and a little bit of their personality, by a character in fantasy stories and lore. So certainly 7 Deadly Sins showing up would not be overly surprising to me, at least.
Right. So do you think there's going to be more?
Possibly. I mean, will they all be the bad guys, though, is the question. Anyway, on that fun note, anything else you want to mention about the Salem illusion? I have one more thing I want to mention, but...
Oh, no, I was done. You can go.
Okay. The RWBY team and John's team have now seen Salem.
Yes, I actually was going to say that, but yeah.
That is a thing few humans and faunus have lived to tell the tale, I imagine.
Yep.
So that's actually very interesting. Now they have a face that, unfortunately, in the form they got was quite terrifying. And I want to point out her fingers. Holy crud, her fingers! Her fingers were great. I thought that was so well done.
There was like some weird twisting going on.
Yeah.
Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I loved it.
I'm remembering it now.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I enjoyed that a lot. I thought that was well done.
Good job, Emerald.
Nice. And so now they have a face to go with the name Salem, and I think that might become relevant because I think they might encounter her in some way, shape, or form in Volume 6. Probably via Seer.
Maybe.
Or some of other Grimm-esque thing we don't know yet. Maybe a cool portal thing, because portals are a thing now. Well, not a thing now. They've been a thing since Raven, but...
So I wasn't really going to bring this up, but since you mentioned Seers, just a tiny detail, is that there's still a Seer hanging around the Academy.
Mm-hmm.
You think they're going to find it, or like is it just going to like slink off and be forgotten as a narrative?
I think it'll either get away.
Yeah.
Might just die on its own, because it seems like Grimm, when they die, they disappear. So
that's true. Salem could just self-destruct it.
Evidence gone.
Right.
3, hilariously, it hides.
Yep.
Just someone finds it in the closet. It's just like,
slowly closes closet.
Is that? Says, excuse me, could you come out of the closet? No, I don't particularly want to do that.
That's exactly what Salem sounds like.
Yeah, not even close. But and then Salem sounds like what's her name from Halo? The
Cortana.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Cortana. Which I like that voice actress a lot. So I'm pretty. The first time I heard Salem's voice, I went, "Oh my gosh, it's Cortana."
I'm awful at recognizing voice actors, so like I didn't recognize that at all.
Oh, typically I am too. I was
okay.
Typically I just know. Oh, I know that, but that was probably one of the very first times. It's like, oh my gosh, it's
that's
Cortana.
Good. That's good.
Anyway, on that, moving on from that fun
tangent
note. I mean, it's pretty funny to think like, oh hey, they just find it in the closet. Like, the frick.
You're right.
But there's no way that Salem would let that loose end stick there.
Yeah, you're right.
Moving on to bad guys running away. We can clearly see they are getting away, and Adam's watching them. One thing I was thinking of is it seemed like he kind of maybe went into the opposite direction. I mean, it's very hard to tell simply because they were going down the ramp, and then he kind of just went up. Like the direction he left the screen was to the left, and they were going to the right. Now, I think he is going to join them simply because that's all he has.
Right. That's possible. I don't really remember that.
But he could also become a lone killer person.
A fourth party, if you will.
Not really. He's by himself. Like, I don't think it'd be overly difficult to get rid of him if he was truly by himself. Like, although he seems powerful, and I'm simply using powerful because strong is very different. Although he is powerful, I don't think he's unbeatable by any means.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think he has to join back to the crew, which means we're going to see him again, which I doubt he's going to have much character development, although if he does, that'd be great.
It would be good.
That'd be really good.
Cool. So then Blake's squad shows up to the scene. Gira, Kali, Sam, Ilya.
Mm-hmm. And they get talking about how Adam's White Fang reign is done.
Yep. Ilya says no one's going to follow him because he ran away.
Yeah.
And then they mention that there needs to be, or there should be, a new White Fang, or a new unity of Faunus.
Well, it's probably not going to be called the White Fang.
Yeah, they're probably going to have to do a rebranding.
Yeah. It seems like they're going to be much more on the peaceful, diplomatic side.
Right. Back to The insinuation seemed to be that Gira would be the leader.
And he sighed. He sighed at that
What
notion.
a surprise.
What a surprise.
A male character sighing? In this episode?
Not in this episode.
It's more likely than you think.
Yeah, most of them do it.
Yeah, so I was thinking that... At first, I was thinking that maybe, like, Blake would be the better choice and that maybe he would try to give the responsibility, but I don't think they're going to do that.
No, Blake's too young. She's too young to lead an entire group of Faunus. She'll get there. Assuming she doesn't get killed, but man, I don't want that to happen.
She has a better plot to do, so
she does.
They're not going to let her do that one.
Yeah, she's the bee in RWBY. They can't just have it. So
yeah, they can't just separate her and have her do a completely separate plot for a season. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, not again. Because this one was really good. I enjoyed the plot that her plot development that they had, but it's time for her to join Team RWBY again.
Yes, it definitely is.
On that note, it does seem that the Faunus are now going to be a much different group, which is great.
Or perhaps back to what they were before, under Gira's leadership.
I think they'll be better than they were before. Because I think even the earlier ones still had some difficulty trying to work with humans in terms of really wanting to do it, that there are still groups of people that weren't overly fond of doing it, and which is what led to the separation in the first place. So I feel like this time they'll be able to go about it in a much more diplomatic way.
This time? Victory through truth and kindness, you might say?
Yes, very much so.
If you were just spitballing, song ideas.
It's probably not hard. I don't find it... Let me rephrase. I don't find it difficult to imagine how they came up with that name.
Anyway. So, Blake finally makes her way back over to Team RWBY.
Via Sun's nice grab with tail. Hey!
Whoop. Yep.
Good job, Sun.
So, Blake, what are you doing here? Says RWBY.
Oh, one thing I want to do right before that is Crow takes the lantern from Yang and asks her what happened. And he says, I don't know.
Oh, yes, of course.
Cinder was gone. And Raven, she was gone too.
Right, yes.
Which, that's interesting that she didn't tell Crow about the conversation she had with Raven. Oh, also that Vernal was dead.
Yes.
But yeah, what do you think about that she chose to keep that to herself?
Well, to me, it speaks to a few things, I think. Okay. It's a complicated relationship she has with her mom, as we know. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, on the most shallow level, it's easier just not to bring it up. But more than that, I think that what she's trying to do here is she's trying to save Raven's face a little bit.
Okay.
Because she knows that Raven ran away. Mm-hmm. But no one else needs to know that.
Yeah. Especially not her brother.
She's really, even her feelings about Raven being what they may, she's still trying to cover for her.
Yeah.
In a way. And, I was going to say something else.
Yeah, that didn't have to be anything more than a mother-daughter moment.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to see if you had any particular thoughts about it, but that's essentially pretty similar to what I had in mind. So I was just trying to protect Raven to some degree, because although their family is a little bit of a mess at the moment, they do still care about each other.
Right. Yeah, basically.
All right. Moving on, as you were saying, RWBY saying, "Oh, hey. Hey, Blake, what are you doing here?" I was going to ask you guys the same thing. Oh, well, that's a long story. And then...
I can summarize that for you in about 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Ha-ha. But essentially, Blake saying that she's not going anywhere, and how instantly RWBY and Weiss are fine with that, and Yang, it takes her a moment to warm up to the idea that there's nothing wrong with that.
And like we were saying before, even though Blake and Raven are parallels to the degree of them running away when things get hard, we can see the difference in that in this instance when both of them sort of really had a chance. Blake is the one who chose to stay and who chose to came back, chose to come back, and Raven ran away. And we see the difference in Yang's
reaction.
Yang sees it clearly because she's seen both of them, and she sees the contrast between Blake's growth and Blake's strength and her own mother's strength. And I think Yang realizes that in the same way that she might have made mistakes in the past and done things that she regrets, Blake feels the same way. Yeah.
And it goes back a little bit to Weiss and Yang's conversation about it of what happens if she probably feels the same way that as I do, that I would do anything for you guys. And Yang was simply hurt by, in my opinion, her abandonment issues.
Yep.
But now, as you were saying, she encountered her mother and can see that Blake is someone that will stick by her side. And as a result, she's not going to try to push her away.
And then we get the beautiful song Fragment.
Yes, and the Team RWBY hug.
Yes.
That we've been wanting for so long.
It only took 2 entire volumes.
It was worth it.
But here we are.
It was great.
And yeah, just to quickly summarize what the songs seem to be saying.
Sure.
It seems to be pretty straightforward. It was just a reuniting song.
Yeah.
You're lost, you're found. Together we're here, and that's all that matters somehow.
Great.
Cute stuff. Cute stuff.
Very
Cute
much
stuff,
so.
guys. Good work.
And then we have Crow going over to Oz saying, man, I don't know how we managed to pull that one.
Ooh, that was lucky.
Says, man, that really worked out. That doesn't usually go for me.
Yep.
And then say, oh, you okay, kid?
Oscar's back.
Yeah. Oscar is back in the driver's seat because Oz tired himself out, which... Do you have any comments on the fact that Oz kind of is so out of it that he no longer can take form inside of Oscar?
Thinking about that, it's hard to say whether that's because... So it could be... The way that I was thinking about it was just that Oz manifesting, like, and taking control sort of, like, takes energy from him.
Yes.
In a way that it doesn't for Oscar.
Yes.
Another way that you made me think about it with your phrasing just now is that maybe it's instead that Oz's grip on Oscar is weakening as they merge their consciousnesses together. But
okay.
I'm not really sure which one it is. I think it could really be interpreted either way. I interpreted it the first way.
I think it was much more the former, that Oz simply overexerted himself and doesn't have, like, they haven't fully bonded.
Right.
So there isn't a fluid motion between their personalities. They're still separate, which something I actually just remembered is that when Oscar took that fireball, the color of his semblance, or not his semblance, his aura was green. It was, if I'm not mistaken, the same color as Ozpin's.
Yep, you're right.
Yes, which, if you think about it, I wonder if that's simply because either that is just the color it was before, which we have no way of knowing.
Right, of course.
Or if it's because that was Oz's and that they are really combining, or if maybe it is that currently it is a combination of both of them and how that's going to change. So I think something to pay attention to was
the color of Oscar's semblance?
Of his aura.
Aura, yes. Sorry, that's what I meant.
We don't know what his semblance is.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I just thought about that. Oscar's semblance. That'd be cool if he gets if he unlocks his own semblance.
Yeah, I'm still not really clear about how that works with Ozpin's soul transfer.
I mean, I imagine he is still his own person, and everyone has a semblance.
Right, but I wonder specifically if, like, each version of Ozpin has their own semblance, or if they all share an Ozpin semblance.
I don't see why they couldn't have both.
Because, like, if Oscar's aura is the aura of the entity that is Ozpin, then it seems to me that his semblance would be that of the entity that is Ozpin.
I mean, it seems like Ozpin harbors himself inside of other people, so I don't see why they couldn't contain their own semblance, or it simply could be that after Ozpin implants himself, gosh, this is sounding bad, that he then just simply silences the other aspects of that person, but I don't see why it couldn't be both.
Right. Yeah. My impression was that they just sort of bonded into the same consciousness, and that Oscar would become a part of Ozpin.
I mean, the only reason I think it's important is because I think then how Oscar fights and how if his semblance actually does show up, that I think that will be significant later on.
Possibly.
In terms of how because it seems that Ozpin goes around, and every time he bonds with someone, he gets somewhat of their personality and maybe even fighting style.
Yeah.
So depending on how Oscar's personality develops, I think will directly correlate to how Ozpin develops.
Right.
And assuming they can't be separated, which if they can, then they would be their own entities again, and then it would be even more significant, the amount of ability that Oscar has.
Right.
I mean, essentially it's just, as a person that's very fond of Oscar, I'm very interested in how his development will influence Oz's ability, because it seems like they are connected to some degree in terms of that Ozpin was tired and had to go asleep, and then Oscar was also
physically tired.
Yes, which it's simply probably because, well, not simply, but partially because of his body being used.
Yes.
In ways that he probably can't do on his own.
Right.
And also probably because getting taken over is
probably
draining.
A draining experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it will be interesting to see how that develops, and that's something that I think we still don't know very much about. Something that would have been nice to learn more about, and I'm sure we will learn more about as it comes up. Oscar really didn't have a chance to say anything about how he felt about Oz taking him over, and I think that's going to be an important point at the beginning of the next volume.
It should come up pretty early on, I imagine.
Yep.
I really hope that doesn't get glossed over, and I don't expect them to gloss it over, considering how well they typically do with character development.
Right.
Moving on to the message that was left by the Oscar foreign phone recorder. Leave your message as the beat. Hey, Oscar, can you let them know to go to the Atlas? Okay, I'll try. They're going to Atlas.
Take the lamp to Atlas.
Take the lamp, not a lantern this time. Lamp to Atlas. So that's significant.
Yeah.
For many reasons.
So obviously what I think is they're going there because the next relic is there, or the next, I guess, I don't know, relevant relic is there, in the Academy at Atlas. And I'm excited. I'm really happy they're going to Atlas, because there's a lot of stuff there that I want to see resolved.
Yeah. So
in Volume 4, the biggest subplot for Team RWBY was Yang.
Yes.
In Volume 5, the biggest subplot for Team RWBY was Blake. In Volume 6,
I see where you're going.
The biggest, I putting 2 and 2 together. Yeah. The biggest subplot for Team RWBY is going to be Weiss. And I just wanted to say that that's something that I recognized about the ending songs for Volumes 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Because obviously we haven't gotten to it yet, but Volume 5's ending song is Blake.
Yes.
From Shadows Part 2.
Yes.
Volume 4's ending song is Yang.
Yes.
Armed and Ready.
Yes. And we already have a Part 2 for Mirror Mirror, so who knows what the capstone song for Weiss's is going to be.
Yeah, it'll just be a Weiss development song.
It could be a Part 3.
It could be a Part 3.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say that I'm excited for going to Atlas. Ironwood's there.
Ironwood,
Winter, who I'm really looking forward to, is there.
The Winter Maiden, theoretically, as well.
Probably the Winter Maiden.
Assuming it's not someone we've seen already.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And, of course, there's going to be the whole plot with Weiss's family.
Yes, the Schnee conflict.
Winter, obviously.
The Schnee conflict. I mean, I think she'll get involved.
Yes, that's true. But,
Schnee conflict.
Jacques and
Names. I'm bad with them. I'm sorry, I can't help you here.
That's fine. Her little brother.
Yeah. Yeah, the Schnee conflict is going to get resolved, and also, who knows what's going to happen when Salem sets her eyes on a country. It's a 50-50 chance of going to crap.
True. Statistically, that's true.
Statistically, 50-50 chance it's going to get real bad, and there's a certain person that's kind of taken over a lot of that entire continent. I wonder what's going to happen if Salem shows up like, hey, I'm going to mess with your business.
Yep.
Yeah.
And,
because something in Volume 4 is that he seemed like a kind of shady guy. I don't know about you, but he didn't seem like he was completely straight.
He wasn't guided by his morals, you might say.
Yes, you could say that. So I'm curious if Salem would be able to get her crew in there, and I think it would be through some kind of weird, shady deal or something, because otherwise that area seems pretty on lockdown.
Ironwood is, unlike Leo, Ironwood is solidly on Ozpin's side.
I don't know about solidly on Ozpin's side.
Okay, let me rephrase that.
He's moral, arguably?
Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
Ironwood is guided by his strong moral beliefs.
Yes.
He's solidly against Salem.
Yes.
Him and Ozpin have differences in opinion on certain things, but by and large fall on the same side.
Whatever that side may be,
air quotes.
Which I would say is kind of a wavy gray line.
I.e., Salem won't be able to get in through Ironwood is my point.
So I think it would be... she might be able to get in through Schnee.
Yes. Because we know Ironwood closed the borders.
Yes.
So I guess that also leads to the question of how is Team RWBY going to get back in?
They have a Schnee with them.
That's true, but pretty sure she's going to get disowned.
Oh, she's probably going to get disowned, but that doesn't necessarily... I mean, they probably changed their passwords. What if they didn't change their passwords? Also, they still have the Butler guy.
Yes.
Butler guy's a good friend. I hope nothing bad happens to him. He's great.
He is great. And yeah, he'll probably come up again with the whole Schnee conflict. One thing I wanted to bring up too was that one thing I want to say I'm looking forward to in Atlas.
Yeah.
Another one of the things is the potential return of Neon and Flint.
You are correct.
But then again, one of the things I was looking forward to in the Journey to Haven was potential return of Arslan.
Yes.
And her team.
Yes.
But
that didn't happen.
That didn't end up happening. I'm a little disappointed. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
So
I mean, was there really room for them?
Look, they could have added more episodes.
I felt like this was we got more episodes than we normally did.
I want to see 52 episodes a year.
You are asking a lot out of Rooster Teeth.
No, that's entirely reasonable. Anyway, moving on beyond that.
That's a lot. You're asking a lot out of Rooster Teeth. Holy crud.
That's the only way I'd be happy. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. But then again, I feel like there's a higher chance that they'd show up because two reasons. One, since Team RWBY's together, it's all one narrative. There's no separate subplot really going on with someone in a different location that we have to spend a lot of time on. Two, I feel like Flint and Neon were more so fan favorites or more impactful than
I would say so.
So it seems more likely to me that they will make a return.
I agree. I mean, they showed the cracks in Yang's personalities and fighting style.
That's true.
In a way that if they met her now, and
would not be the case.
If they try to if they try to mess with her the way she is now, it's not going to do anything.
You're right.
Like Neon, would get flattened.
I mean, she already did.
She'd get flattened faster.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so anything you're looking forward to specifically? Oh, actually, sorry, one more thing I want to mention. Crow glaring at the lantern as it pulses out light.
Yeah, with the lantern pulsing, I was trying to get like a good read on what exactly was going on there.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, there are three things I thought I heard.
Sure.
Probably only one of them is definitely true.
Heard. Interesting.
Well, okay. Well, obviously the lamp was pulsing.
Oh.
That's the one that's definitely true.
Yeah.
Then I I listened to it like twice because, you know, I'm putting in a little effort here, but not like a lot of effort.
That's fair. That's fair.
I was trying to listen to what it sounded like, and to me, it sounded like a heartbeat to me.
I like this theory.
Like there is a definite like bump, it seemed to me, and it also sounded like there was some sort of animal. Like it sounded like dogs to me. Those are in decreasing levels of certainty, but if you go back and listen to it, like tell me I'm not crazy, all right?
Okay, I will have to take another listen.
And I don't know. So the fact that those are like probably like 30% true, I don't really want to speculate on that, but I just wanted to note that it seems like there could be clues there.
Zwei kicks butt and is a dog.
Okay, I don't think it didn't sound like Zwei.
No, but that doesn't mean there aren't other super dogs out there. No, I'll have to go back and listen to that because although I don't remember after watching that and listening to it necessarily feeling anything like that, I like the idea of a heartbeat. I don't think it's very practical, but it's possible.
Yeah, there could be something going on there. I mean, there is, but you know.
Yeah. Anyway, Crow Sai, another male character. Sai.
Funny stuff. Good work, Rooster Teeth.
Yep. Good job.
And then one of the highlights of the episode, not that it's ending, but that we get a full song.
Yeah, and do you want to start talking about that song?
May as well. So this was...
I'm sorry.
This was From Shadows Part 2 this time.
Yes.
It's about time Blake got her second From Shadows song. It's only been like... you know, a million volumes or whatever.
But she needed to get to the place where it made sense, and this is definitely it.
Okay, you're right. It does make sense narratively.
It took her a long time to get where she needed to be, because Volume 1, you have skeptical. Volume 2, more, slightly less skeptical. Volume 3, holy crud, skeptical off the roof. No, can't handle this, gotta go away. Volume 4, hi, son. Volume 5, we're good now.
Good summary, yeah. No, you're right. It does make sense. It's just, you know, it's a running joke to me how little attention that Blake gets in RWBY in general. I just think it's funny it took that long for her to get a part 2. And I think it's also funny that, you know, as per usual in her songs, she sort of is not like the main focus. Like she shares the spotlight.
Yes.
Because obviously in this song, it's a duet. It seems like Blake and Sun are singing, their perspectives are singing.
I would say so.
And I mean, so that's kind of funny. And also it is about Blake, but it's more so about Team RWBY as a whole.
And about the Faunus. It's more about the Faunus.
Yes, sorry, yes. It's about the Faunus. I was getting vibes about Team RWBY as well, but
I'm not going to argue
You're right. It is also about the Faunus, probably primarily.
I think primarily it's about the Faunus.
Given the subject matter of From Shadows Part 1.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it specifically says that we will walk next to humans.
Yes, walk with humans. Okay, no, you're right. You're right.
That's not to say that there aren't other elements of Blake and Sun's personalities and feelings in that song.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I mean, I just want to say that some of my favorite quotes from that is "out of the shadows and into the light," and then "from ashes a new flame ignites."
Yes.
Those were my 2 favorite lines from the song.
And yeah, I think the first time I heard the song, when I heard it live, I was thinking about live when I heard it the first time.
Yeah.
I was thinking primarily about Team RWBY and less about the Faunus, which is why I said that just now.
Got it.
Looking back at the lyrics and listening to it a little closer, it is more about the Faunus, definitely.
Yeah.
That line, obviously, being about the rise of the new White Fang.
Well, group of Faunus.
Yeah. I'm just gonna call it that.
Okay.
And just to talk more about some of the messages of the song, I've only listened to it a couple times so far, but
that's fine.
So I don't know how good it's gonna be, but some things that I noticed were the message to me was very much about facing challenges in the moment, which is about. I mean, that's Blake right there.
Okay.
That's the conclusion of her character development for this character development arc. As they say in the song, There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to run.
Yes.
Things like that. I'll stand with you shoulder to shoulder, etc. The point to me seems to be she's here to stay.
Yes.
She's standing with her friends.
Yes.
This time, there's nowhere to run.
Yes.
She's going to face her fears.
Yes. All right. Interesting how you said that deal with the thing in the moment, deal with the issues in the moment, because I feel that, to me, it really was the Faunus are now going to be from out of the shadows, kind of the side population in this world, to now stepping up and being one of the main and being equal to humans, or trying to get equal to humans in a way that is acceptable.
You're right.
And that they'll go out of the shadows and into the light, and that it was going to be driven by this moment where Faunus decided for themselves that being violent was not okay. Deciding that we are going to listen to our people and as an entity try to work with humans in a way that benefits both groups.
You're totally right, and that's definitely a better perspective. Yeah, what I'm thinking about in what you're making me think about in this song is just the utter dichotomy that exists between From Shadows Part 2 and From Shadows Part 1.
Oh gosh.
There's, just thinking about it, there's a huge difference in the messages of the songs. From Shadows Part 1, it's like a dark promise.
Yes.
It's
that
promising vengeance.
Yeah.
Like, we will rise up. We're going to take back what's ours.
Yeah.
We've been mistreated for so long. We're not going to stand for it anymore. And that is the mindset of the old way thing.
It is.
Of Sienna-Con, then Adam.
Yep.
Less so Sienna-Con.
Yeah.
But and then there's just a huge change in going into this song.
Yes.
Which talks about, for instance, winning the wars with truth and kindness.
Yes.
And it's a completely different thing. And you're right, it is about the evolution of the White Fang. From the transition From Shadows being the transition to Adam's leadership, and then From Shadows Part 2 being the transition back to Gira's leadership, and the whole Blake's whole family, basically.
Yes.
And their dramatic change there.
Yeah. I also think it is an evolution of the Faunus.
Yes.
Mainly, the main line I'm drawing from is the previous one I mentioned from Ashes Igniting, and also the old ways will get over. I'm not doing it justice in terms of how great it sounds or in terms of probably the actual lyrics, but essentially saying that we will get over the past and the old view of the Faunus and the old way that we presented ourselves to the world. And I think it's really going to spark from this moment that Blake and Son started and evolve into probably what one day will be led by the new generation of Faunus that Blake and Son are currently in.
Right. And one thing I wanted to bring up, besides all of this really touching stuff, embedded in the middle of the song, there's, and I don't know, like, if you read all these lyrics or whatever.
I went through them once.
Okay, yeah, I feel that. But embedded in the middle of this song, there's this slightly more dire passage.
Yes. I believe I remember what you're referring to.
Blake talks about, she has a warning for everyone. And then, well, she has a warning. I don't remember the details. And then she goes on to talk about how the first blood must be spilled.
Yes.
Like the banquet, whatever, wine at a banquet.
Yes.
And then she says something about the calm can only come after the carnage has ceased.
Yes.
There's no way to avoid the warfare this time. Retreat spells our final defeat. So, baked into that sort of new rebirth of the Faunus, I think there's also I mean, they've learned a lesson, I think.
Yes.
And with the downfall of Beacon Academy, and with everything that both the humans and the Faunus have been through, it's just like, I mean, you know, it's not exactly like a magical girl anime where friendship is the answer.
No, it's not.
There is a lesson here.
It's much more complicated than just friendship.
They've learned, you know, that there is sort of a middle ground almost between pacifism and violence. Because
I would say more activism than violence, because they've learned that violence is not the way. But in terms of, I think you can substitute
not
violence
against
with activism, simply because instead of they're being active in terms of trying to get things that are important for the Faunus, and active in terms of pushing their opinion, and active in trying to make a change.
I was talking about the conflict with Salem, not so much so much about the humans.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about the humans, but
no.
I mean I believe that is you are saying that you believe the Faunus and humans will be able to work much more together against Salem?
Yes, presumably.
Okay. This is assuming Salem turns out to be the big bad evil that she's painted to be.
Based on what they know she is, so they will.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I do think this means that the Faunus will probably try to leave Menagerie and reintegrate.
It's possible.
Or, I mean, not all of them will leave Menagerie, but
Why?
Certainly some of them will, because it's so overcrowded as is.
Yes.
And they want to make their voices heard in the world again.
Yeah.
They've secluded themselves, I think, on this island really long enough.
Yes.
And, you know, that's the whole point. From Shadows. Here they come.
And I think they'll do a much better job of... I don't know if they'll be received better, because there's no way to transmit what they have done.
Of course, yeah.
But I believe that they will come from a place that makes it much easier to be received. And if they find that they're not received in a specific location, I believe they will have hope and the ability to try another place.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Ending song was great. The scene at the end, we get another sigh. Well, it wasn't so much of a sigh as like a but I found that interesting simply because we have Ty, who is Raven's husband, and although we don't know how they necessarily split and how that went, it certainly seems like he recognizes, oh, hey, look.
Oh, yeah, he knew. Definitely.
Yeah, he definitely knew. It was like, she didn't say hi again. It's like, gosh darn it. It's like, I know, I appreciate that you check on my people. Come on, can you come in for tea once?
Yeah. I'm not really sure what else to make of that scene.
I mean, he didn't seem angry. He didn't feel sad. He just kind of seemed not necessarily disappointed, but like expectantly disappointed. like
sigh.
Yeah, he just kind of he saw as like, oh gosh, that's just like her and it's annoying, but whatever.
It's good to wrap up the loose end, I guess, of where
she was.
Raven went, but then again, I don't think there were really any other options of where she went.
Yeah.
Because those are the only portals I know about.
Yeah.
Are Vernal, Crow, and
Yang.
Tai-Yang and Yang.
Mm-hmm.
And we know she didn't go to Crow or Yang or Vernal.
Oh, that's something I wanted to bring up. Do you think she can connect to Crow still?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm curious if it's a two-way street where you both have to care about each other for it to work.
That's a really good question.
That'd be cool.
That is a really good question. I don't know.
I hope she can.
I hope she can too, because that would be...
Yeah.
Yeah, that would mean she has a path for redemption, I guess. But, yeah, good to know where she went. Was kind of hoping for, like, a Salem final scene or something, but, you know, that's fine.
That's volume 6.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. The only thing I guess I want to bring up is I know we have difference of opinion in terms of if Cinder is alive or not, but I think we will get confirmation in volume 6.
I would hope so.
Yeah. When in volume 6? Who knows? But
at some point in volume 6.
I'm fairly certain we will get confirmation whether or not Cinder is alive, so we can put that on a shelf
to rest
and let it sit there until Volume 6 comes out.
Okay.
Let's see. Anything else? Right. All right. You already talked about what you thought of Volume 5. Do you want to add anything else to your general thoughts of Volume 5?
Did you have anything to say about it?
I loved Volume 5. I was very happy. For me, Volume 4 was a disappointment, not in terms of content, but in terms of how it was made, and mainly the production and how some of the characters maybe interacted with each other, that I personally remember feeling disappointed. And Volume 5 really showed me that was just a lull. That was difficulty of working with a new animation style, from also potentially losing their head person in Monty Ohm, that I truly now believe that they are back where they need to be, and I have no concerns in terms of where RWBY is going to go. Moving on to what I actually think about the volume in terms of its content, I was very happy to see the growth and development of so many different characters in a way that was meaningful and spread across multiple groups of people. That is easily seen with Weiss, Yang, and Blake. They all have their individual developments in ways that are fantastic and I believe will become more prominent, I think actually specifically in RWBY next volume. And the reason I say that is because we had Yang, Blake, Weiss, and now RWBY.
So you think RWBY is going to be led up to be the next?
I think RWBY
arc even further in the future. Yes,
I think she's going to be the one to have the next growth, because she's kind of been not necessarily stable, but fairly
She hasn't had any like arcs. That, like the other characters have.
She hasn't had this grand personality arc because she hasn't needed it.
Right.
But something's probably gonna happen next volume that challenges maybe her way of thinking or her identity in a way that's significant enough to make her change, and I think she's up for the task.
Probably, if I were to guess, probably to do with the truth behind what's going on with the Salem conflict.
Yes, maybe something to do with her mother, maybe something to do with the Silver Eyes.
Right.
There are many things that we don't know about a lot of these characters.
Right.
And about the reality of the scenario.
So much we don't know.
That most of it no shoulds. It is possible we will get more in Volume 6. Anyway, going back to thoughts of Volume 5, animation was great, facial expressions were great, character development was great. Answering questions, not so much, but that was fine because this was a middle volume. That's acceptable. It's transition, it's capstoning personal development, which they did beautifully.
Yes.
And Volume 6, I believe, is going to be where we get some answers. Speaking of which, what would you like to happen in Volume 6?
Before I get to that, I just wanted to... I guess I could just give the same basic overview of what I thought on Volume 5,
sure.
Even though I agree with most of what you said.
Okay.
I agree with almost all of what you said.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to say, I guess before that, is for me, I sort of had an opposite experience, I think, with Volume 4.
Okay.
And that I didn't mind I didn't think there were any, I didn't have any technical problems.
Sure.
With, the animation or whatever. But I thought the narrative in Volume 4 it was slow and it was disappointing.
Okay. I agree that it was slow, but I didn't find it overly disappointing.
I understand that it was build up.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of arcs, but there was just, to me, and I'm sure this is a common complaint, and I'm sure you've heard this enough, but to me what it seemed like is there was a lot of build up and not enough reward for it.
I would disagree, but to each their own.
Okay. But anyway, in terms of Volume 5,
mm-hmm.
I didn't have that experience at all. I thought the animation was better.
Oh, yeah.
Like you said in Volume 4, they were acclimating to Maya
mm-hmm.
and their new system.
Yeah.
But I think they really had it down by Volume 5.
Me too.
And I think the animation in this volume was far and away the best so far in the series. It was beautiful to see.
It's very good.
And it can only get better, I think.
I have faith that they can
Facial
do that.
expressions great, animation great.
Oof, yeah.
Fights were engaging.
Yes.
In interesting in a way that I think they were less so in Volume 4 for whatever reason that might be.
Yep.
But I was happy to see it, and like you said, I think they're back.
Yes.
To me, Volume 4 was a volume about recovery, and to me,
for all across the board.
Yeah, and to me, Volume 5 was an episode about unification.
Okay, and then.
And like I mean, I mentioned this before.
What's Volume 6 then going to be then?
I liked Volume 5 a lot. It's up there with Volume 3 for my favorites.
Yes.
And yeah, great work, Rooster Teeth.
Wonderful.
I think we've displayed that enough in our hours of talking about it.
That's
so
fine.
You've already heard what I thought.
Yeah. Alrighty. So back to my question of just maybe some highlights of what you would like to see in Volume 6.
What do
I know this is hard.
Okay, so joke answers aside, other than 52 episodes a year.
Oh no.
Minimum.
Oh.
Realistically, what I would like them. Realistically, I would like to see them continue the longer season format. I think they did a really good job this year, especially in terms of, and this isn't even about the narrative. This is just meta narrative right now, or whatever. They did a great job this year about like putting out a video every week.
Yeah.
Which was part of the reason I had frustration in Volume 4 watching it live, is because it seemed like every week it was like, 2 weeks till the next episode.
Yeah.
Not that I disliked the World of Remnants, because obviously I really enjoyed them.
They were informative.
But it was just like, oh man, it was like pulling teeth. So I 100% loved that they did what they did this time around, and that they did it consecutive, except for the 1 week they took off for the holidays, which, go for it. And I liked that there were more episodes in general.
Yes. Because
the more episodes that you could do, the better. In terms of the content that I'm actually looking forward to in Volume 6, like I said, I'm really excited to see them go to Atlas and meet all the people there, because I think there's some really interesting opportunities there, especially with Winter. Winter and Crow, we know they've had a rocky past, so it'll be fun to see them again, and it'll be fun to see Ozpin meet up with everyone again, and it'll be interesting to see how Winter deals with her family.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the relic does.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get some insight into that. I'm interested to see what role Raven's going to play. How is she going to do this?
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what role Adam's going to play, whether he's going to try to lead a splinter group, whether he's going to try to join up with Salem, and more generally, I guess I'm interested to see what Salem's next move is, because she has been set back very hard by this loss.
Okay.
She has. Okay. Of course, I'm assuming Cinder's dead, and you're assuming she's not dead. So, from the perspective of Cinder being dead, she's been set back by a lot, because she doesn't have the Fall Maiden powers, and not only does she not have the relic, but her opponents actively do have the relic.
Okay.
As well as the Spring Maiden remaining.
Yes.
Uncaptured.
Yes.
So, I'm very interested to see what length Salem will go to, and what tricks she has up her sleeve, because as far as we know about all of her current lieutenants, and she is potentially down one in terms of Cinder.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that she has more up her sleeve to throw at us.
There's no way she doesn't.
And I'm really most excited to see what that is. Side note, also excited to see what happens to Emerald.
Yeah. Okay. Slight comment.
That is a brief overview of the things I'm excited for in Volume 6.
Slight comment, specifically with Salem. I don't think she's set back at all.
Why?
I really don't think it's a big deal that, first of all, even if Cinder is dead, I believe it's not going to be difficult for her to get the Fall powers back, mainly because of the theory that maybe the Grim is the thing that uses it, or allows her to use it, which means that potentially the Grim has it and can just walk over.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if I believe that, but that's fine.
2, once again, I don't necessarily think Cinder is dead, so not necessarily overly an issue. She's a tough girl. She survived a few hard things, but she might be dead. 3, I have a feeling one relic by itself is not necessarily sufficient to do that much. I have a feeling you need all of them.
That could be true.
And then 4, I have a feeling so the biggest Grimm we have seen is a wyvern.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine there's bigger.
Well, actually, the sea dragon was pretty big.
Yes, if you want to go in terms of length, that definitely topped it, but probably in terms of mass and.
Well, also, yeah, in terms of like the wyvern was like spawning more Grimm, and it was a bigger quote unquote Grimm.
And the sea serpent was only shooting lightning.
Like, step it up.
No, seriously. When it shot lightning, I was terrified. I was just thinking, what the hell can Grimm do?
I think that, and also the Queen Lancer thing was pretty.
Queen Lancer was pretty cool.
Pretty scary as well. Yeah. So I think that does go to show that there are bigger Grimm out there.
Yeah.
Of course, the Knuckleovi too. Jesus, how could we forget?
Yeah.
How could I forget?
And also the Goliath that they looked at the humans like, they're not worth our time.
Made a brief cameo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So yeah, there are definitely bigger things out there. I agree.
Yeah, so I don't think this puts too much of a dampening in terms of her grand scheme plan. But moving on to what I hope happens in Volume 6, I hope to learn more about the general world of Remnant via semblances, auras, Grimm, motivations of Oz.
Sounds like you want more World of Remnants.
So I do. I love those. Of Oz and Salem, I want to know more about how the Grimm work, although I might have already mentioned that a few times. I want to know much more about the Silver Eyes, because I like the Silver Eyes and potentially what they can do for the show and such in many ways. How much they also would connect to Summer and various other things. I like the fact they're going to Atlas simply because that will put a capstone on Weiss's development, because at the moment, Weiss's primary development in my eyes, beside personality, is her strength. Her overall strength seems to increase a lot, but her personality in terms of and her connection to the Schnee name and such is still, in my opinion, has a hold on her to some degree. And I believe she'll be able...
Have you listened to her songs?
I have. I know that might seem like a statement that is blatantly incorrect.
Yeah.
I think it hasn't been fully resolved.
You're right. It hasn't.
She ran away from her problem.
I just wanted to. Okay, just defending Weiss briefly. I know you probably weren't attacking her at all in terms of her character development, but I just wanted to say that her character development has very much been happening.
I agree.
In more than just her power level.
I agree that her personality has also gone leaps and bounds. But I believe there's more.
Yeah, definitely.
That she still has some way to go, and I think the way to do that is via this Schnee conflict that's going to occur in Atlas, and is going to put the capstone on Weiss's development and such. I don't want anything bad to happen, but it's bound to happen. So I guess look for the bad thing to happen. I want to learn more about John, specifically his semblance and his family line of heroes, and how that might correspond.
Right, that's a good point.
Oscar, I want Oscar's development because I like Oscar a lot, and I really hope Oz doesn't take him over because I like Oscar. Interactions between Ironwood, Winter, and Crow will be fun simply because he's drunk all the time. And then lastly, I would say probably anything else we can learn about the Maiden powers primarily through the Winter Maiden, assumingly she's going to show up primarily because she might.
Just a theory.
It might matter. And then the relic, whatever that may be. All right. Well.
That was fun.
That was fun indeed. As terms of a summary, well, a lot happened in the last episode, primarily in terms of the Faunus driving away the people that wanted more violent means, and becoming a group that's probably more going to focus on peace in a way that will be very progressive and helpful for the overall Faunus race.
Yep.
You have the bad guys losing out on this one, or the quote-unquote bad guys losing out on this one. They didn't get the relic. Cinder is MIA.
Quote-unquote MIA.
Yeah, there might be a K there somewhere.
This is the end. Here's where you die. Just saying.
Yep. Anyway, Lantern given to good guys. Yang and Raven had a very intimate conversation about their personal beliefs, and
great scene.
Let's see. Good guy saw, quote unquote, Team RWBY saw who Salem was. Sun's great, and
and
people
overall,
sighed a lot.
Overall, we got a lot of good development, a lot of reunification in this episode that we've been waiting for a long time. We got a couple songs that were great to see. And I'm really looking forward to how these characters are going to develop and what's going to happen in the plot in the future.
All right. So updates about our podcast. This is the end of Volume 5. So, but we haven't covered all the Volume 5 content. So we are going to make episodes on the rest of Volume 5 so that we have one complete volume. But then after that, we're going to figure out what we're going to go. Will we go to all the way back to the beginning of RWBY and start from there? Or will we take a different track? We're not really sure yet. So we'll try to keep you updated on that. Besides that, thank you very much for listening. This time we also had quite a long podcast where we talked about various different things about this final episode. I personally didn't think we were going to get nearly as long as we did in the last episode, but we managed.
But here we are.
But no, really, truly, thank you very much for listening to our rambling.
Nice one.
Thanks. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to our thoughts and our conversation about the wonderful world of RWBY. And we look forward to telling you what we think about Volume 6 when that comes out.
Yes, and I just wanted to say I am excited for Volume 6. I can't wait to get there. I'm excited for the soundtrack and everything in between. And I can't wait to record Volume 6.
Indeed. If you guys have any comments or questions, something you think that we missed, either post in the relevant comment section, or please email us at RWBYRamblings@gmail.com. Once again, thank you for listening. I'm Tristan.
And I'm Ben.
And this was the last episode of Volume 5 for RWBY Ramblings.